We have with us Nathaniel Darnell from the GRA, and he's going to tell us what that is.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you guys. We are here live at the Georgia Republican Party State Convention. My name is Nathaniel Darnell. I'm the NFRA director for the Georgia Republican Assembly. And the Republican Assembly's been a movement that's really started back years ago, decades ago, in fact, under Ronald Reagan and Barry Goldwater in California. It really took off, and they helped Ronald Reagan get elected as governor, launch his presidency. Ronald Reagan called the Republican Assembly the conscience of the Republican Party, or the Republican wing of the Republican Party, because there's a problem we've seen in the Republican movement that Republicans often don't stand for their principles. They don't actually do what they say. And so the Republican Assembly has emerged to encourage our Republicans to actually do what they say, to follow the party platform, and to do what's best for Americans. So one of the things that makes us different from the regular Republican organizations is that we actually endorse in contested Republican primaries. So if you're a GRA member, or Georgia Republican Assembly member, or if you're from a different state that has a Republican Assembly chapter, we have conventions where our membership can gather to vote to endorse a candidate in one of those contested primaries. We don't only do that for, elections for state office or legislative office or commissioner. We also do that for state party office. And so we've done endorsements for this event. We have candidates that we're endorsing for state party chair here in Georgia, first vice chair, second vice chair, etc. And so we're working this weekend to help those folks get elected. Well, a couple of weeks ago, our membership met, we had a convention, and under the rules of the Republican Assembly, if two-thirds membership votes to endorse a candidate, then that candidate gets our endorsement. They have to work hard to get that endorsement. They have to prove that they really are going to fight for the principles that we believe in. So, for example, we've endorsed Josh McCoon for state party chairman. We've endorsed Marcy McCarthy for first vice chair, Brant Frost for second vice chair, and we have a whole slate that we're giving cards out regarding that. And the whole point is to really make the Republican Party stronger. Now, you had asked me about the accountability rule. Do you want me to go into that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so the accountability rule is a special effort that we're putting forward this year, which is a little bit unique. And what it basically says is it's a rule proposal before the whole state party convention that, if it's adopted, would specify how the delegates in the party can prevent somebody from running for office as a Republican, from requalifying next year to run as a Republican. They can still run as a Democrat, they can run as an independent, a libertarian, Constitution Party, whatever else, but they couldn't run as a Republican. They couldn't be listed as a Republican in the primary or the general election if the body voted. This would take, at least a majority, maybe a supermajority of the delegates at one of these conventions where you have 1,500 to 3,000 people present. So it would be a very high threshold to get someone to be blocked. But that's called the accountability rule, and it's in the Rules Committee being debated right now, and we're hoping it makes it to the floor tomorrow for debate, discussion, a vote in some form or another. The reason why we believe this is necessary is because we've been reaching out to our Republican legislators at the state capitol on many important issues like election integrity, and we're not getting a lot of response. We've been begging and pleading with them, please do something, and they're not doing anything. And this is a way to encourage them to actually do something, to come to the bargaining table with us and negotiate, and hopefully it's something we won't have to actually use, but people will just say, hey, I don't want to risk, not being able to qualify next year, so I'm going to listen to these folks when they encourage me to advance election integrity or the pro-life cause or gun rights or whatever it is on the platform that we say we believe in that we don't often follow through on. So please support the accountability rule. We appreciate it.
Well, definitely CTA is behind you.
Yeah.
One question, in our grassroots interviews with common folks who've been obviously frustrated on the right, the word rhino keeps coming up.
Right.
And it's like, well, why are we doing this? We're voting for the R in Republican, and we're getting a rhino, which is voting everything against what we thought they would do.
Right.
Is that something that you're concerned about too as an organization?
I mean, that's exactly why we have these contested primaries and we have these endorsements and why we're pushing forward with the accountability rule, because we believe that, rhinos, or what we call Republicans in name only, hurt the brand of the Republican Party. I have a friend, Adam McManus, who's a conservative talk show host, who he prefers to use the word dork. Democrats opting for Republican clothing. But it's the same basic concept that, we have folks, and where I come from, in my congressional district. It's a very red district where a Democrat could never get elected. So what do the Democrats who live in that district do? Well, they run as a Republican. They couldn't get elected any other way. And you don't know. People that go to look at the ballot, they see the R next to the name, and they're just like, well, he must be a Republican. It says so on the sheet. So we got to have some way of proving and holding them accountable when they're not.
Well, I think that in media,
Yeah.
we're learning that we have rhinos too.
Yeah.
And we're learning that Fox is becoming the rhino of media because maybe the controlled opposition, the way they do that in Russia and other places where they basically have an opposition supposedly,
Right.
but it can only go so far. But when the truth start coming out, all of a sudden,
Right.
it's the end of it.
Right.
And that being the only media that was supposedly,
Right.
major media that was leaning conservative. How do you, as a conservative, see what they've been doing? We're talking about Tucker. We're talking about all the others. How do you see? I'm not talking about GRA now.
Sure.
Just you as a person.
Right.
How you felt about Fox 6 months ago, and how do you feel about it today?
I know.
And what do you think?
Well, it's definitely, there's a lot of pressure in the corporate world against Fox News to capitulate. You got the ESG movement going on and a lot of new political correctness that's being pushed upon us. And it's sad because, Fox News used to be a great network. And it's been really terrible to see what they've done to Tucker and others before him that were kicked out, that were promoting good media. But, it's great that Tucker's got a new platform. It's great that we have other groups emerging like Charlie Kirk's group with Turning Point. We've got, Daily Wire's group. It's becoming another alternative media source. I think one of the reasons why we have rhinos emerging is because so many of them still listen to and watch mainstream media. And the ones that read like the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, they start to believe the nonsense, the liberal nonsense that the media, is spouting off. And so they believe it and they try to apply it in Republican politics. And we say, look, don't read that stuff. Read Daily Wire or Charlie Kirk or some other alternative group because you're just getting brainwashed. But you're right. We can't trust Fox News like we used to. We need more alternative media sources like your group to help people point them in the right direction and realize that the mainstream media is not unbiased. They want to say they're journalists, that they're unbiased. No, they are just as biased. Atlanta Journal-Constitution calls our group far right. We say, no, you're far left. You guys are, pushing socialism and Marxism, and we got to just call it what it is. Like they say, the emperor has no clothes. The media is not unbiased.
No, and I think that definitely we exist because we know mainstream media is what's been doing to the right.
Yeah.
And definitely, that's why we called ourselves conservative television. And they told us, don't call yourself conservative. The people are going to hate you. And I said, but that's who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, those who love our messaging are going to love us.
Right.
Those who don't like the message are going to hate us anyway.
Exactly.
So that's the point. Now,
don't be afraid of a fight, right?
Well, exactly. But we cannot be George Soros funded with a name like conservative television, and that's why.
Right.
The last point is obviously the big news concerning Trump, which we expect. I don't know if the news has changed, but we expect them here tomorrow.
Yep, he's speaking here.
How does that, the impact of what they're doing, what they have done, and already what they've been doing, but what they are still doing now on a federal level, there's the first time a federal indictment.
Right.
How does that impact the people in your organization and those who see what could happen in the next few months?
Right.
Because there's a perspective
Right.
that we have a shot in 24.
Right.
Do we have a shot without Trump? Is there going to be a movement if they really are able to shut him down and arrest him and not let him run?
Right.
Do you see blood in the water?
For Trump or for the liberal media or for
the reaction of those? Because you don't have to love Trump to hate what they're doing.
Oh, no, in some ways it's backfiring, I think, on them because it's building sympathy for Trump. Every time they harass him, people see him more as a martyr and they want to stand up and defend him. And I think to a certain extent, some folks maybe even say, wow, Trump is almost symbolic of what could happen to all of us. They're harassing him politically the way that we all could be harassed if we allow them to get away with it. And so it's in some some ways it's rallying people to his cause. I think in other ways it is more of the same. You know, it's keeping Trump in the headlines every day. Unwittingly, sometimes I think the media, you know, they are their own worst enemy in terms of giving Trump free publicity. But you know, how many times over the last 2 years have we seen them go after him? And it's almost like the boy who cried wolf. Like, oh, okay, they're harassing Trump again about something that is obviously completely made up and contrived. And so,
in the 60s, if you may be too young for that,
yeah.
But with the Vietnam War became a subject
Right.
that the people just, and they were riots. They were they were protests. They were riots at the level that Washington could not avoid it.
Right.
And I'm not saying that you're calling for that, but do you
Right.
think that this harassment to Trump could eventually create a movement to really boycott, protest, lock things down in Washington so that they get the word? Do you think that's possible?
Possible. I mean, we'll see. I think there's definitely a backlash that we've seen occurring against the liberal movement. I think after they won the election, or if it was stolen, you know, in 2020, I think the Democrats, the liberals, overplayed their hand. And when we saw things like drag queens and trans things being pushed on our children, we're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, this is where you're headed. And so I think that, yeah, plus the attacks on Trump, plus other things going on, are definitely causing America to pendulum swing back toward the conservatives. And you know, I think that it's going to potentially, if we take advantage of it, you know, if we take advantage of the momentum, I think we could see a lot of great changes in the future.
Well, let's just say we hope that the conservatives and the Republicans decide to stop talking.
Right.
And move in the right direction.
Amen. That's exactly why our group exists, is to get them to do what they say. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we're glad you're here.
Thank
we're
you.
glad that we're here to promote.
We're glad that you guys are here. Thank you for what you do.
And thank you so much for all the information you've shared.
Absolutely. God bless you.
Thank you. We're happy to have with us one of the panelists here in Georgia, in Columbus, for the Republican event. And being that I've seen her in so many events, everywhere in the last couple of years, I couldn't stop myself from inviting her to say a few words. Tell us a little bit about, so far, what you've seen and what you expect to see here in Columbus in the next couple of days.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So yes, so this morning I came to Georgia. I'm sorry, Columbus, Georgia, because we have our Georgia convention. But I was invited to be a panelist for the Minority Outreach, and I happen to be the chair for the Republican National Hispanic Assembly representing Georgia. I'm also a multicultural strategist, so you know I have a lot of experience in grassroots, in a lot of marketing, business, and media when it comes to the multicultural community, and that includes obviously Hispanics, African Americans, also the Generation Z. I work with college students, so I was brought on to kind of share my knowledge and ideas for winning next year, which is our election. And so far, it's been great. I've been just really amazed with so many incredible leaders who are gathered together to fight for faith and freedom.
Now, Minority Outreach. How difficult has it been to convince the Republican Party to take minorities seriously?
Well, I will say this. I've been, since 2004, which was my first campaign involvement, I've been pitching that message for a very long time. I think there's some sort of disconnect between the GOP and minorities. I believe that there is an interest. I believe that they're trying, but it's really time to kind of like let the people in the minority community who are seasoned, who have the right heart posture, the right spirit, who really care about God and country, to start leading the way when it comes to minority outreach, not only at the national but also at the state level.
It takes money. And do you feel they're going to loosen up some of that money when it comes time to do the campaigns?
I hope and pray it does. Look, the reality is you can only get so far with just volunteers, okay? When you look at the Democrats, they have a lot of fundraising. They collect a lot of money, but they also put their money where their mouth is. And they do pay people. They pay staff, they pay volunteers, and they have a very organized, they have a great, I don't agree with their policies, I don't agree with their beliefs, but I have to commend the Democratic Party. They know minority engagement, they're very involved in the community, and they spend a lot of money to get those resources, not only human resources, but also the capital resources to be effective and also to win.
And they're very good at creating false narratives and false ideas. But what I think is so obvious, and maybe someone in the Republican needs to hear this in the Republican Party, minorities are basically culturally conservative.
Yes.
Whether they are from Latin America, whether they are from Haiti, there's 100,000 Haitians in Atlanta alone. Okay, that's a community that is being totally ignored. Maybe they're telling me almost 60,000 are registered voters. Even though in their culture, and I know it well, in their culture, they're very conservative on every level, church going and everything. But when it gets to election, they don't vote red, they vote blue because they're expected to, and because they think that that's what is expected of them, and the Republicans are not making an attempt to convince them. And I think that that's where we are losing votes. I think the Herschel situation would have been very strong if there was an effort to get the Haitians out for Herschel because of his values, much more linked to their values compared to the other guy, crazy values that, are against the natural conservative values of the Haitian Americans. So in essence, I know it's difficult. It's a subject that's difficult because you want everyone to understand that you're on their side, but they got to be told that if they don't do this, they're going to lose another election.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I happen to live in Atlanta, where the county that I'm in is Fulton County. It's also very Democrat. Listen, I think this is going to be the answer to your question. Can you believe that in the mail I would get lots of handwritten postcards and letters from Democrat activists on the ground trying to push for whether it was Warnock or whether it was Biden at the time? I never really got a letter or a note card or a postcard or anything of that sort from a GOP, leader, okay? I say all that because, again, something that I've been warning a lot of people in our side is the following. The Democrats, they live, they eat, and they breathe politics. Again, I disagree with their beliefs. I do not support their notion, but I have to commend them. When it comes to winning, they like to win, and they work hard, and they play hard. I see that on our side, many of us, yes, we can vent. Yes, we can express our beliefs, and that's great. But where is the call to action? Okay, and this is where right now our country is being decimated little by little. Why are we here? Are we here to what? Hobnob and rub elbows and use people to advance ourselves, selfish interests, or we're really here for God and country. I personally can tell you this, I'm here for God and country. I want to connect with people who love God and country, who are patriots, who are warriors, who understand that our country is being decimated as we speak. Our children are being under attack. Our young people from college campus are under attack. Our economy, we have our military is being, is being weakened as we speak. These are critical issues that our country is in grave danger. And I'm not here to be negative. I'm just saying that this is a reality. And I feel like our side needs to be more proactive and drive these issues back home to the community.
What do you think is more dangerous to the Republican ideology, conservative ideology? Democrats or rhinos?
Rhinos. Hands down. Because with a Democrat, you know where they stand,
exactly.
And they're not wearing any masks. With rhinos and fake counterfeit patriots and even fake Christians at that, and I'll say it as a preacher, okay? Because I see it too. Sometimes the worst circles are the Christian circles, and I speak as a Christian preacher. If they're wearing masks, but when you know the Lord and God shows you people for who they are and gives you revelation, you know where to go.
Exactly. I know these are tough subjects.
No.
But that's what we do. And when you talk about call to action, when I created CTA, that's what CTA is for. It's Conservative TV America, but it's also call to action. The CTA is to call to action for people to say, it's enough. We can't just sit there and not do something about it. And so I'm happy that you're on my side about not just fighting the Democrats, but fighting the Republicans that are unwilling to do what they're supposed to do.
Yes.
Because then, at the end of the day, we get the wrong people in power, and then who suffers? Our children, whoever that, what they're trying to do, and then we get to the point to what we have now. First time, former president is indicted on a federal level.
Disgrace.
How did that hit you when you heard that?
It's an absolute disgrace. Look, I'm a big Trump supporter. I'm not going to hide it. I've been a huge fan since 2015. Is President Trump perfect? No, he's not. Neither are you, neither am I, nor anyone else. But I will always stand for a leader. I'm from New York, so I love his tone. I love his demeanor. That's how I speak, and that is truth. It's baffling to me how so many people on our side continue to bash and criticize him, and I'm like, walk in his shoes for an hour and you wouldn't even last. This man is a fighter. He's a warrior. He loves God. He loves our country. He has put everything on the line to save we the people, to make this nation great again. And because he drops a few, foul words, or he has a tone problem, what else do you expect a man who has gone under so much persecution, who is literally surrounded by so many vipers and snakes, and so many opportunists that have literally taken advantage of him to betray him day in and day out for the last 8 years, and then you have people say he's not presidential. Give me a break. Listen, I'm here to encourage the audience and your people that the best is yet to come. Okay, God's on the throne. He's allowing all this to expose. He's allowing all this for us to waken up. And I'm here to tell you that God's hands on President Trump, and he is our remaining president, and he will be winning in 2024. I am so at peace and in confidence.
But you have to be angry.
I am angry, yes.
See how far the left will do anything.
Look, what we're seeing is, and it's just something that, it's not even about politics anymore. It's about the war versus good versus evil. It's light versus darkness, okay? It is what it is. And I love how the Lord is showcasing all these things for all people to see. And unfortunately, the vessel is President Trump, but he's a fighter and he's a warrior, and he represents my values, and like many others too.
When you're going to battle, whether it's a divorce, whether it's anything, you want the nice lawyer who's going to be accommodating, or you want the pit bull?
I want pit bull.
Exactly.
This is what we need. Our country. And it's funny you say pit bull, because I was talking to a few friends and I'm like, look, President Trump needs a pit bull for a secretary, okay, for a press secretary. He needs pit bulls, okay? He needs people that can discern and snuff out the vipers and the snakes and the opportunities and the counterfeits that are in his circles.
Well, you know what? I nominate you to be that press secretary, because I think you would have the credentials. And I think you're a pit bull, a beautiful,
I am a pit bull.
Beautiful pit bull.
Thank you.
Don't get me wrong.
I'm very loyal, but I don't like injustice, and we got to call a spade, and I think that's where we're at right now. Enough with the superficiality, enough with trying to feel good. Our country is in dire straits, and we need people that are going to call it out and say, you know what, we're drawing the line. We call the elephant in the room, and on top of that, we tell people you have a choice to make. You're either on this side, where is God and country, or you're pretty much the enemy, right? The opponent. Where you hate the Lord, and on top of it you hate this country, and you're on that team. So I feel like right now we have to literally, even among the conservatives, we need to be very discerning, we need to be very wise, but also align ourselves with people with our values. No compromise.
And no compromise. And we need to go all the way, because we know on the other side they will cheat, they will lie, they will do everything, and they will empower the CIA, the DOJ to become a political weapon for them. So it's because they're allowed to do that, and we are not allowed to do that. We would never do it. That's the problem. We wouldn't believe that would be good for a country. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah.
I hope you are going to be on CTA more often.
Thank you.
We need faces like this, and brains like yours, and a heart like yours to be on CTA. So the invitation is wide open to you.
Thank you so much. I just bless you, and keep doing the great work that you're doing out here, just showcasing our values and just being a light in this very fallen world. Thank you.
Thank you. That was good. That was really good. So let me turn this off.
I'm fiery. I'm sorry.
But that's why God put me and said, go talk to her.
We're a little time on Logan. Okay.
We have Mike Warlick with us about the Georgian fair tax.
That's right.
And we met him right here in the vendors hall. And I said, you need to come to CTA and explain this because I don't like to pay my taxes, but I have to. And I think he's probably got a solution for making it fair.
Well, appreciate it, Claude. I've been with a fair taxer or with the fair tax organization since 1998. I started listening to a guy on the radio show in Atlanta named Neil Bortz. I became interested in it, and I finally ended up buying Neil Bortz and John Linder's book on fair tax. It's all based on the fair tax research. And I became so interested, I became a regional captain, and for 3 years I was the state director for GFFT, or Georgians for Fair Taxation. So many trips to Washington, trips to Ames, Iowa, to Houston, Texas, where AFFT, which is the National Fair Tax, is based. So over the years, I have been an activist promoting the fair tax. And we have realized after about 6 years of effort that the fair tax in Washington was not going to move very far. In Washington, they do real well under the income tax. We don't, but they do. They can raise re-election money under the income tax. They can reward their friends and punish their enemies. So there's a big advantage to them to maintain the income tax. And we all know the income tax was considered the first half of our history in the United States. It was unconstitutional. It's only in the early 1900s of Wilson when the Supreme Court said, if you want this bad thing called an income tax, you're going to have to change the Constitution, which they did with the 16th Amendment. That allowed it. So about 6 years ago, Georgians for Fair Taxation decided we needed to open a new front, and that is with a state fair tax initiative. And we have a bill that we're trying to get ready to introduce in 2024. It'll be a state fair tax bill modeled after the national bill. The economies are different, but basically it has all the components that the national fair tax bill has in it. And so the beauty of this bill is that under this bill, the local counties and cities will be the windfall of the bill, not the state. So that's a perfect time to talk to your representatives about tying it to a property tax reduction. Because here at the convention, that's all I'm hearing is my property taxes have gone up and are going up. So it would be not only that, it would also cut out this game of the elite Georgia elected officials picking winners and losers. Delta Airlines under the Georgia income tax, they're a winner. So is the movie industry. They're winners. They get big tax breaks. But Joe's Auto and Betty's Beauty Shop down the corner, they're the losers. Majority of business, small business, are losers under the Georgia income tax. We want to stop that. It's time to stop it.
Now, our listeners, our viewers right now, I'm sure many of them are asking themselves, well, how can I help? What can I do to make this happen? What can they do?
I think the best thing they can do now is talk to their representatives and say, are my children and grandchildren, will they have to live all their lives also under the income tax? If there's support, why can't we have a high researched not coming out of any politician. It came up in economic research. Why can't we have a consumption tax, a new model consumption tax? There are 9 states in the United States that have no state income tax. They all do economically better. They're economically business friendly and under their taxes. The difference is those 9 states enacted their state consumption tax years and years ago, before the research that was done on the fair tax. Florida and some of these, Nebraska, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Wyoming, Washington State, New Hampshire, they all have consumption taxes versus income taxes. And if you go to a nonprofit organization, nonpartisan, called the Tax Foundation, you can do the research yourself. You can look at where Georgia ranks according to its tax, and that's all they do. They look at, the Tax Foundation looks at state taxes and how they apply, and they compare them to other, and they rank the states.
So where can they go? What phone number can they call, or where website? How can they learn more about how they can help this become a reality?
Georgians are GFFT.org, Georgians for Fair Taxation. They can Google that.
GFFT.org.
Yeah, and that means Georgians for Fair Taxation. And they can currently help us. We have to, of course, raise money to have the bill scored, and that just means we have to be sure it's worded right, that it applies to all Georgia laws. And one thing I want to emphasize, the bill has wording in it, you won't end up with a state income tax and a consumption. I've had several people ask me, what happens if we end up with 2? No, they specifically eliminates and replaces the Georgia state income tax with this consumption tax.
How does the Georgia governor feel about what you guys are doing?
He doesn't support it. I met Brian at a event when he was running for governor first time, and my wife just immediately hit it. She's right working the booth now. She said, "How do you feel about the fair tax?" And he said, "Well, I have my own tax plan I'm going to enact." I haven't seen it. I don't know about you. He has done some things on taxes that will lower the certain level of income tax, but he has no...
Brian, are you listening? We're talking about you. You are the governor. You're not supporting this.
Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of politicians.
The rhinos, do you see the rhinos are against it and those who are not are for it? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, if you were one, you'd enjoy that privilege of picking winners and losers. And so the fair tax...
I like my country too much to do that.
I know you wouldn't, but I just, the only person in history that I can ever heard of that loved the income tax was a guy named Karl Marx. Karl Marx said, it's essential, not be nice to have, essential for a communist form of government.
I think he's a Democrat. Thank you so much for talking with me. Yeah. And watch CTA, you'll see your interview.
Thank you. Check out Georgians for Fair Taxation. Thank you.
Look who I ran into. Lucretia Hughes, a part of CTA, an important part of CTA, right out of Loganville, producing programming for CTA and for the rest of the world. The greatest conservative I know, who has no issue telling the world what she thinks. So what you doing here in Columbus?
I am a delegate to the Georgia State Republican Convention. I've been a delegate for the last 6 cycles, and I take my civil liberties very, very, very serious. So we can get out there on TV, we can get out there and speak to people, but if we're not walking that walk, why we keep talking the talk? So we can't do anything not sitting at the table.
Did you bring your Rhino radar?
Well, they already staying away from me to begin with, so that's not something that I need to worry about at all. They haven't stopped by our booth at all.
Tell us about your show and the kind of things that you've been able to do. And of course, we're happy to have you on CTA. But tell me, what is that experience is for you for being able to reach out and share your opinion of what's happening?
Well, our show is The Real News with Lucretia Hughes. It's ran by ordinary people, me, my husband, and my mother. So we take articles from all around the United States, all around the world. And if it goes against our biblical principles, if it goes against God, family, or country, or even Trump, I'm going to dig them a new one. And I do it because I want to hear well done. I know that sounds simple to a lot of people, but it's not simple to me. I really want to hear well done, my good and faithful servant. So I am led where he sends me, and I try to pray on a consistent basis to get out there and not be hoodwinked or gaslight or lie to people. I just want to be bold and truthful in everything that I do and say.
You mentioned the T word,
Trump.
and he'll be here tomorrow.
Trump. Well, actually, remember in September the 9th, I will be speaking for people before Trump hit that stage.
Well, what I want to know, what did you think about what you heard about this new indictment?
It is brought to you by the Biden West execs, DOJ and DOD and FBI. I could care less. Because if they're coming out with a piece of paper or evidence that Joe Biden accepted $5 million in a pay-to-play scheme, that's treasonous. Because Trump kept some paperwork. Didn't Mike Pence do the same? They didn't charge
Obama?
him. Obama did the same.
Clinton?
Clinton, you had Bush, and now you got Biden. But we found out the classified documents, as he was vice president, should have never been in his possession to begin with. See, to me, that's not the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that you accepted money for a pay-to-pay scheme to put laws and pieces of legislations on our books that don't benefit the American people, but benefit your friends and your cohorts.
And when Trump tried to get to the bottom of that, he was impeached.
Yes, he was. And he was impeached by Adam Kinzinger Schiff, Nadler, and a whole bunch of their liars. Pelosi. So if they knew it was a lie, because we found out it was a lie, they was actually briefed Obama and also Biden and Hillary in the Situation Room about this lie. You think I care what they're trying to do to Trump? I'm going to write his name in anyway.
My point is that they're doing so much, everything they can to make sure he doesn't run. What are they afraid of?
Him unfundamentally changing America back to America. To bring back free will in America. To bring back God in America. Bring back what it actually means to be an American. So that is what Trump wants. So this is my point all the time. Since they treat America like a business and a corporation, then wouldn't you get the greatest businessman on earth to actually be the president? And we had him for 4 years. So when I was traveling the nation, I said, this peace and prosperity, this all that you're seeing, this reprievement that we have right now, don't get used to it, because if these people get back in power, our lives will be fundamentally changed and we will become a third world country.
And we need a pit bull to control these Democrats down to make them pay for what they've done to him and what they're trying to do to the country. We don't need a nice guy.
Presidents are puppets. The unelected bureaucrats on K Street, the unelected bureaucrats that work in Washington, D.C., is the underbelly and is the deep state that everybody keeps talking about. But no one wants to focus on these. One thing that Trump did when he got in office is that if you came in with him, you leave out that door right behind him. You don't have a guaranteed job for life where you're going to get a pension. No matter if you break the law, break the Constitution, you got to go. Now, if we could get rid of the elected boards that have been placed all around the nation, because there's 12 elected boards in Georgia that we didn't vote for, but was appointed by Brian Kemp and the powers that be. This was all broke up against, it's kind of like the Agenda 21. So if you know what Agenda 21 is, you know what Agenda 30 is, now we're stepping into Agenda 45. So in the state of Georgia alone, Brian Kemp, Republican Party, and also the Democratic Party has compromised with each other, and we have 12 regions for 159 counties.
You're only going to hear this on the Lucretia Hughes show or on CTA. Anywhere else, you think?
On Lucretia Hughes Show, which is Fallback Productions, CTA TV, you can find us 5 days a week, 2 hours a day, from 5 to 7. But you can also join the John Birch Society, the Madison Forum organization, because they dive deeper into the underbelly of all this political system and break it down. So if you really want to know the truth, I'm going to tell you, like my dad said, open up a book, because it's in there.
Lucretia, has anybody told you that Republicans are all racist?
I'm a white supremacist. How's that? There you go. I'm a white supremacist. I've been called a white supremacist, but I'm a mutt. I'm a Heinz 57. So if you're looking at the black side of me, you're looking at my forefathers. You want to look at the white side of me, I'm Irish. That's my grandfather and his clan. And then you got the Cherokee side. So I would like to say I'm a mutt, a Heinz 57. I am a child of God. So maybe that's what it is.
Well, people seem to forget the Republican Party, created in 1854, was created to end slavery.
And help to free slaves. Nobody wants to talk about that. If the Republicans stop going on defense all the time and actually go on offense and bring out the tragedies that the Democratic Party has actually done, how can anyone be a Democrat? But I will challenge anyone that wants to challenge me. You saying you saved by the blood of Jesus Christ, well, you're not a Democrat because they don't even have Christ in their platform. You saying you loves the babies and you here to protect the children. Well, we automatically know that the Democratic Party would rather kill them before they even allowed to breathe. And the ones that are allowed to breathe, they want to figure out what they're supposed to be. So they're trying to wipe out anything that makes you who you are. I'll go head to head with any of them any day.
That's why we love you.
I have 9 grandbabies, and the tragedies that I'm seeing right now and for their future, if I don't do what my grandparents did to me, and that was tell me what's going on, they didn't sugarcoat anything. If I'm not willing to open up my mouth and direct my grandkids, because I'm the coach of that team, I am not finna relinquish my rights to the government. I'd rather take a bullet first.
Well, I think that Trump will win again, and he needs to surround himself with people like you, because unfortunately he listened to the
Powers that be.
Surrounded himself with a bunch of rhinos or people that
McConnell, you go ahead and say it. We know who the rhinos are, and they have shown their hands. But these are the same rhinos and the same Republicans that will compromise with the Democrats to keep their power. I said their power, not our power.
So I'm voting for you for one of the cabinet ministers. Which one would you like?
You know what? I would just like to have a seat at that table where he's actually listening to my suggestions, because I don't want to steer him in the wrong way, and I don't want him to steer my grandchildren in the wrong way. So if he don't have powerful people or very strong people around him, we're going to continue getting the Christopher Ways. We're going to continue getting the McConnells. We're going to continue getting all this and all the underlying belly and the people that really hates what it means to be an American. He is a man on an island by himself, but at least he's saved by the blood of Jesus Christ.
He's not alone, because I think that so many people, even if you don't like Trump,
I like Trump.
If you don't, and you love this country, you cannot be happy that the DOJ and the FBI and CIA are all working against him. That's not the America that I grew up
They're
with.
not just working against him, they're working against us. When you use them as attack dogs against Catholic parents for going to school board meetings. You're having the FBI, the IRS, the DOJ, the DOD, and all the rest of them go after regular American citizens, but allowing fentanyl to flood across our borders, allowing us to have an invasion from military-aged men, knowing that they're Al-Qaeda, knowing that there's terrorists flooding across our nation. That oath of office that they stood up there to uphold, they have broken. And it's time to either put them in Leavenworth, Gitmo, or get them out of there. But that's just the way I feel about it.
And actually, I'm looking forward to, when he becomes president, that he declares a heterosexual Pride Month. What do you think?
We got it every day.
We got it every day?
Every
We don't
day,
need
every day.
a month for us?
No, we got it every day you wake up. And I'm going to tell you what my grandson said 2 weeks ago, last week, standing in the kitchen. Happy Pride Month. I said, what you say? I said, Pride Month. Sit down, let me tell you about Noah and the ark. Let me tell you what the real rainbow is supposed to mean. Let me tell you of the man that died on the cross for your sins and that you won't take for granted. So if I had to correct them from what they heard in school to what they're going to hear in the Bible and read for themselves, then I know I'm doing my job. You heard that in school. Sit down, let me talk to you, young man. I turned to my grandparents.
But exactly. Why do we have to do that? Why do we have to be conscious of what's being taught in school? We can't trust anybody anymore.
can't.
But you know what? If we keep doing our job, you doing yours, and I do mine, maybe something will change.
You got a daughter, I got grandkids. Ain't no way we're going to allow them to take hold of them. Because if we don't train them in the right way they should go, they bound to make the mistakes that we did. Let's not allow them to happen.
We're on a mission.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
That's why you said Rome, and then I said Fulton. I was like,
Alex Johnson is with us, taking a minute to talk to CTA. He wears a lot of hats, president of the Georgia Republican Assembly, and also the president of
the National Federation of Republican Assemblies.
So Alex is a very important person that we're happy to talk to, because as a conservative channel, we are interested in what is the direction of this party, of the conservatives, and basically we're facing major elections that are coming up that can change the direction of this country. That's why this channel was created, to see how we can stop the left from totally destroying America. So everybody here, I believe, is concerned with that issue. You're in a position to do something about it. Tell us what you think are the best opportunities for our viewers to be able to support the messaging and what they can do for GRA.
All right. Well, people really need to get involved in their local Republican parties. I'd encourage people to join the Georgia Republican Assembly or the National Federation, because we are about getting true principled conservatives and Republicans involved in politics. And right now, in a lot of parts of the country, the people who are making money off this stuff are the ones running the show, and that's why things are getting worse. That's why a lot of times you feel like you're choosing between the lesser of two evils, and we're the ones to fix it, and we need your help.
I've been concerned about the fact that many times you're voting Republican and you end up getting someone who's not voting, doesn't see the light, or doesn't see the way you see it. And I guess the label is rhino that they've been using. How deep of that, how big of a problem is that in the party?
Well, I mean, that happens all the time. I mean, here in Georgia, we just passed constitutional carry for gun rights just in the past year. We've had a Republican majority for about a decade. We have endorsed candidates, the Republican Assembly has, we've endorsed candidates who have gotten into office, and then they try to push gun rights legislation, and leadership sits them down and says, if you push this, we're going to get you out of office. We're going to primary you, spend money against you, and try to get you out. And they did try with some of our endorsed candidates, and that's a huge problem. The moneyed establishment is the issue, and the solution is greater involvement by listeners. Like, you have to come to events like the convention. You have to get involved with groups like the Republican Assemblies.
What is the relationship with the Georgia GRA and the Georgia Republican Party?
Right. So the Republican, the relationship is that we're all Republicans, but the Republican assemblies are under the National Federation of Republican Assemblies, and we are all volunteer, all grassroots, nobody getting paid here, and we endorse in primaries, and we endorse for party office. We have a slate of candidates here today that we think are going to lead the party the best, and we encourage involvement in the party. We encourage our endorsed candidates to get elected, and we're all about the accountability of the party. So it's a cooperative relationship, although it's all up to the GOP whether or not it's cooperative. Like if they want to fight us, we'll show up with numbers, outvote them, and put our people into office.
Well, that's why, I mean, not that I want to stir up any issues here, but the idea is that there's got to be, it's not smooth sailing when you're dealing with people that don't want to relinquish power. You are a powerful ally or destructive element to what they're trying to do. So when you get resistance, then what do?
Well, and this is the thing, we try to stay overly positive, like optimistic, because what it's about is where it comes from. The Republican Assembly's power, just like the parties, comes from involvement. And a lot of people don't know how to be involved in the convention's process. They get there and they're like the only person that they believe is there in favor of gun rights. The Republican Assemblies, we train people on how to be involved, we let them know that they have allies, and it's a fun, positive effort to work together and bring in more members of the public. Because the only group that's being destructive are the people who want to keep out your listeners from being involved. We're all about the involvement of all people who believe in basic Republican principles, like lower taxes, gun rights, Judeo-Christian values. Like those things are all, I think all Republicans are for them, but some of the paid political industry is, they don't want to push that because they're afraid of their donors not liking it.
So basically, I'm not asking you to name any names, but are there some elected officials that wish that you didn't exist?
I mean, I will give one name that is an interesting issue of the primary system, because right here at this convention, we're actually trying to push a rule change that will allow the party to pretty much create a list of people who can't qualify as Republicans. The problem is that it has been a habit in Georgia of people with the most money buying the primaries. About 8 years ago, I think it was Brad Raffensperger, bought his way into a primary over the guy who's currently running for state chairman right now, Josh McCoon. Josh McCoon was well known. He stood up to corruption in the state Senate. He knew everyone around the state. Didn't even make it in the runoff because Raffensperger just bought his way through the primary into the runoff. You can't have people who don't really care about the party or its values being the standard bearer. It destroys our brand, it demoralizes voters, and we need to control our brand.
But how did this guy get to be where he was and do so much damage and still says he represents Republicans? How does this happen?
I mean, what happens is right now, like the people, I think people have forgotten how much the party has ballot access, and the party is made up of citizens at home coming out to precinct meetings, county conventions, getting involved, and maintaining our brand, and really, making it so that we are the Mercedes, not the broken down car on the side of the road. And for that example of that politician, the issue is just look at the disclosure reports. He raised and spent a lot more money than anyone else, but look where the money comes from. And I mean, it's all on public disclosure reports, and that's the issue. Are they serving corporate interests? Like a Stanford study said years ago that we're like an oligarchy where the politicians serve those interests, or are we the people? And I believe, and the Republican Assembly believes, it's about the people.
Isn't it also a key element to be able to control the party in this state, the local elections? Because as CTA just launched in Augusta, and we'll have local broadcasting in all the cities in Georgia, because we believe that local elections, from the school board to the dog catcher to whoever it is, it affects people a lot more than the presidential in many ways. So what do you say about that?
I mean, absolutely. People need to be involved in their local communities because not only are the county school boards, I mean, the county parties in Georgia usually appoint people to the local election boards. And you need to be involved in seeing what's going on in order to have an impact to your communities. And I mean, I know I would like nothing more than be focused on my paid job, which is a private legal practice, not involved in politics. People want to spend time with their families. People want to be at home. That's what conservative conservatives and Republicans want. But you have to be involved in your local community and get out there, because the leftists are. They're out there getting organized and involved. I mean, they're pushing the country towards communism, and unless you're willing to stand up and be involved, we're going to lose the country. And it's, I mean, I hate to say this being the first time on your show, but it's your fault if you aren't involved.
Exactly, and it's just they're not stopping at ideology. They're going after our kids.
Yeah, because if they train the kids to believe essentially in communism, and that, I mean, I met someone a few months ago that was saying that she was teaching some kids about, like, do you want to be, like, essentially, do you want to make money and have a profitable business or be poor? And like half the room said they'd rather be poor than rich. And she was like, why? And these like 10 and 11-year-olds were like, well, you know, being rich, you're evil and you're bad. It's better to be poor. And I'm like, that's...
Well, if you're white, you're evil right off the bat. I mean, you know, if you're straight white, forget about it. You're a terrorist.
Yeah, and I was shocked when I heard that children are believing it is better to have less influence, and it made no sense to me. But that's what they're being taught. So if you aren't involved, like it's
your fault.
It's your fault, and it's going to destroy our society, because I mean, they're going to vote, and if they're going to vote for communism, I mean, I have friends who are from Venezuela, and it's sad what happened to their country.
Now, what is the objective you're hoping for this assembly?
So this assembly, one goal's already been accomplished, is that we're discussing the ability of the party to say some people can't run as Republicans. Like, if you've been acting badly, we've pushed that talk forward. I'm happy about that. I hope the rule passes, but if it doesn't, we've started the conversation. The other thing, we have a bunch of great endorsed candidates who are running for party leadership. We feel good about all of them. We think they're all going to get elected, but they are truly principled conservatives who have stood up for election integrity. We're very supportive of President Trump, that have really stood up against cheating in the party. In one county 2 years ago, they had more votes than voters at a county convention, elected county leadership. And then this year, everybody came back and voted out the ones who advocated the cheating before. So we are just hoping to get good people in office for the state level, and I think it's going to happen.
First time a former president or president attends an assembly like this. Why do you think it is happening?
I mean, I think it's happening. One, I think it's happening because the former president loves Georgia. Two, I think it's happening because we have a lot of really good candidates running that, and I think that President Trump knows this will be a friendly place. And I mean, with all the Georgia Republican Assembly members that are here, we make up a large percentage of the delegates, us and our allies, and we think that it's going to be a very welcoming crowd.
And where's the governor?
I think the governor put out some stuff before even this rule change proposed, saying that, you know, that implies that he doesn't really need the party, and I think that is a ignorance of state law and the point of political parties. So that's a shame that I don't think he's putting the people in the party first in this instance.
So he's above all of us now.
I mean, a lot of politicians think that way, and it's a shame. But I mean, it's the only way it changes is for the people to stand up.
Well, as they say, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts you absolutely. So can't get away with that. Well, very good. Listen, CTA is here for any messaging. We're watched over the airwaves right now in Augusta and Roku and Amazon Fire. For 2 years, we've grown a large community of conservatives that are watching our programming. So we're here to help get the message across. So anything that we can do, this is your platform, this is your media. Come and talk to us.
Thank you very much, and I urge everyone to check out GeorgiaRA.com to check out the Republican Assembly. We'll try to plug you in, and we appreciate you for all you're doing and all of your viewers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.